At first, before you can see the interview, let me say some words. It's an honor for me that you are here to watch this special interview with Akira, my first guest. And yeah, this would be my new thing that I wanted to talk with people about their life and how they gain energy and what helps them and what not. So I'm super honored that Akira, he's one of my neighbors, shared some minutes with me and then with you to answer some of my questions. And I hope you find this helpful for you and your life. And yes, please check him out. His music is genius, it's brilliant, and I love him. So enjoy it and enjoy the interview. So, welcome Akira. Thank you for this amazing opportunity. We are neighbors since maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And I learned a little bit about you and your life, and I really want to learn more and want to listen to your story and your way. So thank you for your time.
Gracias. Felix. Felix Navidad.
And yeah, how are you doing?
Chido.
Chido.
Chido. It's pretty Chido, neighbor. You know, we're in Paradiso right now. You know what I mean? I was able to wave at you from my balcony up until a couple of days ago. Yeah, right, exactly. But now I can't because you moved down here like a gypsy. Yeah, it's pretty nice, right? Here.
It is.
In Paradise, Playa del Carmen, Mexico. My son is very fond of it. He's Ocho. He likes you. He keeps saying pretty much every day, he's like, can we get Felix to come around and play video games? I want to play video games with Felix.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We will do it.
I'm like, leave Felix alone. He's busy doing ceremonies. You know what I mean? He's probably doing another ceremony right now.
Tomorrow will be the next and the last for me.
Well, you're really squeezing in another one. Just squeezing it just before...
Without ayahuasca. Without. Just normal ceremony.
What ceremony is this? What do you mean without ayahuasca?
Some cacao ceremony and something like this. I don't know.
What is that? What is that, like alcohol-free beer? What's the point in that?
Could be.
Well, you're just going to go along and like bang a drum or something.
This would be nice, yes.
Nice, okay.
So, from 1 to 10, how would you rate your own energy level at this moment?
Oh, my energy level?
Yeah.
At this very moment right now, probably on an 8.5.
8.5?
Yeah, but like I was definitely on a 10 yesterday.
On a 10?
I was definitely on a 10 last night.
Wow.
But that's because I've been doing this Mexican CrossFit shit. And like that has powered me up to levels that I was previously, that I did not have at my disposal. And now I've been doing that, which I never did before. It was the missing thing, by the way. And it's funny how God works. But like I dialed in a lot of stuff. I had a lot of things that I needed to fix over the past like decade, 7 years or whatever. It's like bad relationship with money, negative, bad self-talk, unuseful habits, Fixed lots of stuff. Missing thing was physicality, right? I'd always been like, because I was an artistic little kid, and they trick you, where I went to school anyway, they trick you that like, if you're like artistic, you like music and shit like that, then physical shit is not for you. So it's like the jocks are over there and they do football or whatever, and if you like music or whatever, you're over there and you don't go together, you know what I mean? So I never got the physicality locked in.
Never?
Nah, not really. I mean, I used to, just before I moved to America, I was in Wales, getting ready to move to America, and I ran on the beach every day for like 3 months, and that was the best, at that point, that was the best shape of my life, and it was pretty good. You know, but since I've been here, I joined this CrossFit accidentally. I didn't know what CrossFit was. I was just going to a cafe. I was going to Fat Rabbit, right? And like, it's next to a gym, and I saw these people fucking jumping up and down on boxes and doing weights and shit like that. And there's only so long you can observe other people getting after it before you two go, well, I need to get after it, or not. You go fuck it. But I was like, all right. So I just went in there, and I spoke to this guy, and he didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Spanish. So we agreed that I would come mañana. So I came mañana. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what CrossFit was or nothing. And after about 35 minutes of that, I had to go outside and heave in the middle of the room. Fucking in the middle of the
Yes, this is CrossFit.
Yeah, fucking hell. But I stuck at it, and I've been going every day, 5 days a week ever since.
Wow.
And now I'm in the best shape of my life and have access to this extra level of energy that I didn't have before. And I trained myself to access a huge amount of my sort of energetic potential without any physicality. So now I've got physicality dialed in. It's this whole fucking extra level, which means that I get to exist on a very, very maximized energetic level now, like most of the time. You know what I mean? Pretty much most of the time.
So that means before just was in your mind, you free your mind and your soul, and now the third part, you complain, and everything's like in a circle for you and your life that it's complete.
Well, it's the this shit is very important, and that I'd managed to get as far as I had without paying attention to this really was, in retrospect, insane. But now I have access to this because it's all it all works together.
Yep.
That has really unlocked potential, certainly energetic potentiality, to a ridiculous degree. That was a fucking mosquito. And I do a lot of mosquito murdering, by the way. Out here, I murder a lot of mosquitoes, you know what I mean? And that's part of what one does with access to energetic levels of power, is one does a lot of bullet time.
You're like an mosquito ninja.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the Neo of mosquito murder in this particular matrix. Whew. Seriously, so that's, being over here in Mexico and discovering CrossFit, and just doing it every day now for like 5 months or something.
5? Wow, I think this is impressive.
Yeah. Since July, August,
since
September,
5
October,
months,
November,
you go 5 times a week.
Yeah.
For a beginner, it's impressive.
I was a fucking mess. It was hilarious. Like, you really have to sort of like check your ego at the door, because I was pathetic. It was comically bad. And everyone in that place is like, they're all like fucking superheroes, basically. It's like a room full of superheroes. And I was just lying in a pool of my sweat laughing just at how comically inept and awful I was. I didn't know how to do a squat. I couldn't do anything. I'd never picked up a bar. I did dumbbells, but I'd never done bar, you know what I mean? I couldn't even pick up the bar initially.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't do fucking anything. I remember trying to do this wall ball thing where you have to squat down and throw the ball at the wall. Maybe I got 6 of those. I had to go outside and be like, vomiters maximus. Like, I could do that shit all day now. You know what I mean? I can do all this stuff now that I could not do before, that I couldn't even dream of doing before, in a relatively short space of time. And it's very, very epic, very, very powerful, very, 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 very exciting. Like, shit, where will I be in a year? I've got these new muscle things on my shoulders now that feel like bones.
And I saw him. He looks really, really impressive, by the way.
Thank you. Gracias.
I want to see your first muscle up in maybe 1 year, 1.5 years, or something.
Yeah.
That would be nice, man.
Yeah, it's exciting. Because, I'd already fixed a bunch of stuff, like I said, like diet was another thing. So getting this locked in last. Well, there's always more shit to do. Lots of shit to do.
So, before we got complete down of the rabbit hole, what would your personal definition of energy? Has you one?
What's that? What would that be?
Yeah.
Your personal definition of energy?
Yeah.
I guess I think of things in terms of comic books, maybe. So I would say my understanding of it would be related to how Jack Kirby talked about it, and he's the guy who invented most of what you know as the Marvel and DC universes.
Okay.
And he had the concept of the Source.
The Source.
Which was ripped off by George Lucas for the Force.
Wow.
So it's a bit similar. So the Source being that of which all is made, and a direct source, a direct connection to that which created it. You know, so one could think. I think about energy in those terms of like the direct connection to the source, and so therefore and you could think of yourself as a conduit or a radio receiver.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah,
so the better tuned in you are, or the better in the better condition your radio antenna system is. You know, like I remember back in the day, the neighbors used to try and fix their televisions by like attaching extra coat hangers to the roof and shit like that. You know what I mean? So you'd attach an extra coat hanger to the TV set, and then people would be climbing up on the roofs, like attaching extra bits of coat hangers and metal and shit to try and get better television reception. You know what I mean? But yeah, you think if one thinks of a human being as a wet-brained receiver of non-localized consciousness, and you think of everyone being that. There's one way of thinking about it. There's lots of ways of thinking about these things, and all of these things are metaphors and just ways of understanding and navigating experience, right?
But this is a great way.
So that is one way, and that's one way I think about it. And so as far as this going back to the physicality thing, it makes complete fucking sense that the better this thing is working, the better the receiver will be.
Yeah.
And the more able, therefore you will be able to, access more of that source, or more of that energy, or whatever it is, in more and more practical and deliberate manner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not separated. It's that your mind needs a good body that the mind can work as well.
Yeah. Well, at all time, because you know the thing. You have these psychedelic experiences.
See.
And those are little shortcuts. And you go, shit, look at all this fucking stuff. There's dragons over there, and there's fucking lizards, and there's all this stuff. And if I go flick the air like that, I can see it moving across. And, look, everything's connected, and everything's made out of shimmering stuff, and it's all manipulatable, and da-da-da-da. So there's a shortcut to that awareness, but that's there all the time. And you should actually be able to access that all the time. And you should be able to navigate experience in that manner all the time.
Yep.
Therefore, turning oneself into a finely tuned machine that is aware of these things and can see and manipulate these things at all times without any kind of psychedelic.
Yes.
That would be useful, right?
That would be
groovy, right?
Amazing connection to your source.
Yeah, because that's what. Yeah, you know, you have these intonations, right, of that existence, or those levels of existence. You have intonations of those levels of existence and those levels of being. And psychedelics are little shortcuts or little peepholes, you know.
Like
but it's not practical. What's that?
Like a little reminder that there's something more, and then
exactly.
Try to integrate it in your normal
exactly
life.
Because it's not practical to be fucking wandering around the jungle collecting bits of separate plants and shitting in a bag or whatever it is you're doing in your ceremonies. You can't be doing that every day. You know what I mean?
Would be hard.
That's why we have church. You know what I mean? That's what that's for. It got, institutionalized church got twisted over the years, but people used to go to those old churches in the UK with the stained glass windows. You'd go there and you'd just look at those windows, and they were so beautiful and colourful compared to much of what you would see in your regular life. You would have your transcendent experience there, and you'd be doing that every week. You go and have your transcendent experience, and you connect with your people, and you're aware of that beyond yourself. Like, that's what that was all about.
This is a beautiful way of thinking about what church could be.
That's what it was. and still is for some people.
Yeah.
Some people still live, and I know some people who are in certain sects where they still take things very seriously and still have the old ways and traditions and the old music and the old sort of ritual and incense and this, that, and the other. So they still have that because they pay attention and they know what it's for.
Mm-hmm.
So it does still exist.
Just so lovely to see and hear some other ways how you think about the world. This is what I love on these interviews. What is draining your energy?
Me personally?
Yeah, please. It's only about you personally.
Yeah, well, obviously there is a lot of creepy activities in the world currently, and there is a lot of creepy weirdos going out of their way to drain everybody's energy and to distract everybody and keep everybody focused on certain stuff. And, but I ain't paying too much attention to that shit. But it will come in because the practicalities of existence, of navigating existence right now, are different to what they were a couple of years ago.
Definitely.
They're like, hence me being here in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't.
Far away from Europe.
Yeah. There's certain places I literally cannot technically go right now. But, some things are in our control and others not.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we focus on that which is within our control, then shit is Chido. So you just make sure you check in on what's in your control and what isn't on a regular basis, and don't be getting caught up in the stuff that isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And pay attention to the blessings and in what is within your control, and focus on that shit, and lean into that 100%, and you'll find that existence is magical and glorious.
Beautiful.
And that's what I've been up to. So you have to check in. Occasionally I'll find myself paying a bit too much attention to like so-called world affairs or what have you, or what the creepy weirdos are up to.
So you
have to recalibrate.
You do much in the outward and not in you. You mean?
Yeah, well, a little too much. If you're like, oh, these fuckers are doing this. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't watch the news, but I have people that I follow on various platforms through which I get this filtered. So I follow a wide variety of different humans, so I can get as close as possible to a sort of 360 panorama of what's going on. And I try not to be in all the time, because a person who reads the newspaper is usually less informed than someone who doesn't.
Definitely.
For obvious, for all sorts of reasons. It's a funny old thing. Explaining this shit to my son, he's 8. He's getting quite good at spotting propaganda, stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
And things that are ideologically possessed. Things of that nature. He's like, Dada, that's ideologically possessed. Dada, I was watching a thing, but it was ideologically possessed, so I turned it off. But like,
he's 8.
Yeah, and he's gonna be cool.
Impressive.
Him and his friends are all that way.
Wow. With 8.
What's that?
All his friends.
Yeah, all his friends who are between the ages of like 8 and 10, and they're very similar in that regard. They're able to spot propaganda. They're not interested in being propagandized at. They just disengage from media and stories that are corrupt and twisted, of which many are right now.
Yes. Sure.
There's been this push over the past 10 years to pervert the traditionally mythological for reasons of propaganda, right? But the thing is, with propaganda, it does not resonate on the sort of soul or whatever level. So kids who are paying attention just don't want nothing to do with it, and they turn away from it. And that's what I'm seeing with my son's generation. They're really not interested in any of that stuff. What they're interested in is creating their own worlds and creating their own stories.
This is, for me, it's still super impressive, because when I think, what did I do when I was 8? Probably I play some Pokemon cards.
Nice.
it was nice, but I didn't thought about that was yours kids and all the other kids in this special time. Think about it. It's so impressive.
Yeah, well, these kids, I mean, like, you know, Hercules is running, comes gets me last night, and him and all his little friends, they've made their own open world game in which there's currency and all this various stuff, and they've got Discord servers.
No way.
For the various aspects of the game, and there are shops within the Discord servers, and they're all doing specific aspects. Like he's making these little animations for the thing, and one of the other friends is coding stuff, and he's writing the story.
With 8 years, he's coding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no, the one who was coding, I think he's 9.
Oh yeah, then 9. It's totally.
But they can all do all this stuff, so that between them, and they're all like, each one of them has kind of a skill and a superpower, and they just naturally will do the thing that they're good at as part of this society they've built within the internet. And they all live in different places, by the way. Like, so one of them's in Canada, the one who's good at coding. One of them's in Los Angeles, another one of them is in Texas right now. Like, this is all friends that he used to have when we lived in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And then now they all live all over the place. But they're all still friends, and they build these worlds together online, and they make songs together. His friend Siren, who's in Los Angeles now, he's like making songs about this world and stuff. Like, what? And they expect that's normal to them, right? They expect to be able to create worlds of whatever they imagine. They just expect to be able to make that visceral.
This is the beauty of our time.
Yeah, they expect, if they want to sing a song, they expect to be able to make a song, make a music video, make an animation, make a movie, whatever it is. They, you know, like, when I was a kid, you couldn't dream of doing that stuff. That's what, if you wanted to make a song, you needed a recording studio, you needed a lot of money, you needed all this stuff, you know. I would do that kind of shit anyway. I used to, I had a tape recorder. I used to copy bits of tapes to other tapes and back again, and chop them up with scissors and stick them together with sellotape to make loops, and you know what I mean. But like this next generation, they're a participatory culture. They're not lugubrious as the last few generations were. The last few generations sat down and watched the TV, and it's interesting because
they make their own TV if they want.
Yeah. Marshall McLuhan had this whole idea that television was transformational because he felt that television was participatory, which in a way it is. He talked about like when JFK got shot, and that was a moment that everyone participated in that moment because they all saw it on TV. So there's a level of participatory that TV allowed, but it was still lugubrious in that it was passive. So you sat there and the information was delivered to you, and you could all come together and have a moment around that. But it's quite different to what it is now, wherein they have all been handed the tools of production. You know what I mean? Like every kid who's got like a laptop or an iPad or a phone or whatever it is has got essentially the same capacity for creation as a television studio, as a movie studio, as a book production house or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they want to do. They don't want to be dictated to. They don't want to be told. They're not interested in Disney Star Wars' idea of what the new mythology is. They're making their own mythology. You know? Oh. And that's fucking sick. Like, what will they make? Watching what they're doing now is crazy. What will they do in a decade? And and that's also... The other thing to bear in mind with that is where the technology will be in a decade as well. Because we're already getting very close to the point where what happened to the music industry will happen to the movie industry, i.e.
What's the name of the technique?
What's that? Unreal Engine or something.
Yeah,
exactly,
Unreal
right?
Engine 5.
So Unreal Engine enables a person, you or anyone, to essentially make a movie. Fully fleshed, beautiful, incredible looking world, characters, emotion, language, speech. You could literally, one person could do that. So what happened with music in around 2000 was suddenly you could make an album on your laptop. You didn't need to go to a studio, hypothetically, and that's, you know, that spawned all manner of new kinds of music and ideas, and it destroyed the establishment stranglehold on music.
Yeah.
I always think about Terence Trent D'Arby, he was a British musician, and he was like, I don't know if his dad was black and his mum was white or whatever, but he was like blackish, and he claimed he was supposed to be on the cover of Rolling Stone, and he was getting quite, I think he did get a Rolling Stone. He was starting to get quite big, and he claims that Michael Jackson and Prince got together to blackball him and get him excommunicated from the music industry. Wow. Because there was only 12 issues of Rolling Stone a year, and only room for 2 black guys on the cover of Rolling Stone. So you had 12 issues of Rolling Stone, and 2 of those covers were for black guys, and Terence Trent D'Arby was one more black guy. So Michael Jackson and Prince, according to Terence Trent D'Arby, colluded to have him removed from the industry because there wasn't room for Terence Trent D'Arby.
Crazy.
Now there is infinity Rolling Stone covers. Now there's room for anybody. Now you can have Young Lean from Sweden be like huge in his universe and unknown to most of the world.
Yeah.
But huge enough that he can live in complete comfort and just make music for the rest of his life and not have to worry about doing anything else. Like, he doesn't need a cover of Rolling Stone.
Yep.
He's a fucking megastar in his own universe. There's now potential for infinity musical universes, and everyone can exist. You know? And the same thing is now happening to movies, because suddenly the technology is there for, you know, my kid and his homies to make their own movies.
Imagine how many George Lucas are out there with new Star Wars idea. Or
exactly. Well, I mean, even
like
George
this.
Lucas can't make Star Wars. Like, he had to fucking sell Star Wars. You know what I mean? He couldn't even make his own Star Wars, right? Like, that's the other thing, is that movies are over as well. Whatever it is that my son and his homies are going to make will not be movies. It will be the next art form.
Yeah.
And the next art form will be some kind of combination of video games and choose your own adventure storytelling and campfire storytelling and epic poem storytelling, utilizing this technology. And
something new.
Yeah, it will be some kind of augmented reality mapped to the real world situation. And I think it's going to be really cool because, for example, if you want to play the character of the blacksmith within the video game, it's going to require, for you to do it the best you could possibly do it, it's going to require you to actually be physically able to do that stuff as well. Right? So you'll have people like getting jacked and like becoming really healthy and strong and stuff in order to participate in the narrative of this game, movie, or whatever it is in the most optimal fashion.
That's good.
That's what I see coming. Well, I don't think it will be a case of people being...
Not for all of them, but...
some people see this future which is a bit like Up, and everyone's like fat and in a pod, you know, and everything is going on in the mind. But I think that might exist as one parallel aspect. Yeah. But I think the most appealing to the human being will be the integration of the two. And I think that's going to be happening, and I think that's going to be...
Like yin and yang, and not that one side is too strong and every person is fat. It would be some fat people and some super skinny people like me. but in the end, we need a yin and yang, and
there is always balance. There is always balance in the force, in the source.
Oh,
always.
Nice.
It's necessito.
So, before we talked about the next super fancy universe, let's go back to business. One of my favorite questions is, what costs you a lot of strength, a lot of power, energy, but you get more out than you put in?
Well, CrossFit's a great example of that. Or that thing. So you go, fuck, you don't want it, but you don't want to do it, and then you go and do it, and in the midst of doing it, you're like, you know, getting to the next stage of forcing yourself through. You're constantly at war with your own mind, because your mind is saying, like, you don't need to do 100 push-ups. No one will see if you just do 70.
Yeah.
Who's even looking? And you're constantly at war with that little dick voice in your mind that's trying to trick you into not being your best self, right? And you got to pay attention to that motherfucker, because every time if you give in to that motherfucker, it doesn't matter that no one else knows, you know. And subconscious you starts to think of yourself as being that kind of a person. So your subconscious, which makes most of the decisions and does most of the heavy lifting, will start thinking of you as being a weak, cheating, lying, lazy scumbag, and it will therefore act accordingly. And when it's doing all that subconscious decision making, it will act in that manner. So fuck that. But anyway, when you ignore all that stuff and you go in and you put 100% energy into, say, your 1 hour of CrossFit, which you would think would fuck you up for the rest of the day or the rest of the week, what actually happens is it gives you more energy and it powers you up, and that energy bleeds into every other area of your life.
Yes.
And you suddenly have more energy for whatever it is you're doing creatively, or whatever it is you're doing in your personal life, or you're suddenly more powered up in every aspect of your life. You know, so that's how that shit seems to work. It's more like a kind of energy generation. It's a bit like when you're DJing, right? So when you're DJing, think of it like a triangle. So here's you, you're DJing, and there's audience. And what you put out there then comes back at you, right? So if you go like high energy and you and you pay attention to them, you know, and you pay attention to what's going to work with them, and you put it out that way, it will then come back at you stronger. And if you're then receptive to it, and then you use it, and you put it back out there,
like a cycle.
And it builds and it builds and it builds and it grows in power. And then that will reverberate throughout the rest of your week. If you do that in a nightclub experience, if you pay attention and you DJ properly and you properly use the energy in that room and you properly distribute it and redistribute it and build upon it, then you can, when you reach the end of the night, if you end in the proper manner with the energy at the you know, fully utilized and contained, and people step out into their lives, they step out into the world, they carry that with them. That energy carries with them into their lives, into their work week, into their personal relationships, and so on and so forth, if you've done it properly. If you fuck it up, people will take out a negative energy or a dark energy or a fucked up energy, a broken energy, and that will go with them into the world.
I never thought about DJing in this way and thought about the energy, but you're totally right, and it's such a beautiful thing what you as DJ can give to people, such an energy, and that it can hold over days or maybe weeks,
lifetime. If it's done correctly, people will carry that to their death. You know, there are certain moments in your life, certain transcendent communal experiences at a concert or something like that, that people carry with them forever.
Yeah.
If it's, you know, sometimes, and oftentimes it's accidental because people aren't thinking about it. It's not a thing that people think about consciously. Most, you know, when I talk to DJs about this stuff, most of them would not have thought of it in that way. Some of them intuit it, some of them, but not that many of them will have actually really thought, oh shit, that's what I'm doing, and so on and so forth. You know, it's one of these things that they really should teach the young, you know, because it's in everything. It's not just like, say, DJing or sports or whatever it is. That exists, those feedback loops, and that potentiality exists in everything.
Yeah, of course. But normally in sport or on a DJ set, you have a short loop, and you get your response super fast, and that makes it easy. And yeah, this is the hard part, because normally our lives takes years, months, or maybe decades.
Here's an example, right? You go outside now, you pass someone, you smile at them, right? There's instant, usually they smile back.
Yep.
Sometimes they'll be having a bad day, and you've made their day better, and you can see that, right? It's a very quick thing.
Yep.
And you do that every day. If that becomes a habit that you just do, wherever you go, you smile at those that you greet. You see people, you smile at them. You wave, this, that, and the other. Every day, you're making lives a little bit better. Every day, the energy that you manipulate in your interaction with universe, creation, experience, however you want to think of it, is in a positive and useful manner. You're actively like upping the fucking vibes and making shit groovy. You know what I mean? Those little things are not so little because they're the things every day.
Yeah.
You know? Manly P. Hall said something which I liked about how what you're doing in this life is you're building your immortal soul. And in every decision you make, in every greeting, in every time you decide whether to help someone or not help someone, whether to smile or not smile, whether to react in anger or in, I don't know, gratitude, or whatever it is. Every single one of those little decisions is building your immortal soul.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And when you come out of it at the other end is what shape is your fucking soul in? Is it this twisted, angry, bitter, resentful, or is it this thing that's just one little smile at a time, built something bright and beautiful?
Yeah.
You know?
It's a beautiful thought. Yeah. It's about every day and every little decision and this little decision.
That's your life. Your life is those little decisions. Your life isn't like the concert.
This one big thing.
Your life isn't the concert or the wedding or the big event thing. Your life is the going to the coffee shop every day or the how you greet your wife.
Every day is Snickers.
Yeah, it's
and getting fat.
It's the little things, yeah. And if those little and if what you're doing with those little moments is destructive or something that hurts you, or something that makes you feel weak, or something that embitters you or makes you less than every day, that compounds and you end up fucking miserable and a blight, sucking up the energy around you and fucking up everything in your surrounding area like a fucking black hole of horror, you know what I mean? Just sucking in all the planets and shit.
Yes, please, some more efforts.
Yeah, exactly, for your monetization or whatever. Yeah. I mean, that's an example of it. Like, you've got to be careful with your language. I've been really, working on that. And you go, oh my goodness, I used to say damn, like every other word. Everything was damn this, damn that. And then I'm like, hey, what does that mean? Why am I damning everything? I'm damning everything. It was like every other word I was damning a thing. So I switched damn for bless.
Oh yes.
So now I say bless.
So you replaced this damn thing.
Yeah, this blessed thing.
With something better.
Yeah, now I bless things. Now I bless everything.
And now everything is Chido.
Chido. Chido is such a great word. Chido is a way of saying, in Mexico, of saying cool, pretty much, or swag, or something like that. Say Chido. It's one of those words that like it brings joy when you use it. Because as a gringo, you're not expected to know certain things. So if as a gringo you say Chido, that brings joy to those who hear it. In my experience, whenever I say Chido, people light up. They like it. So it means that you've paid attention. Is what it means. It means that you're not just like reading off a guidebook or whatever. It means that you've actually paid a bit of attention to the culture and shit like that. And people like that. People like it when you pay attention. Who'd fucking think it?
And people like smart boys. or men.
That's funny.
How do you hold your energy over a day or maybe a week?
For a lifetime.
Or this?
Yeah, you have to be consistent, don't you? That's what you have to do. You have to be consistent. And you have to be consistent on the things that build your energy, and you have to be consistent on paying attention to things that deplete it and shit of that nature, and being balanced in your activities and counteracting things. Again, I always think of this in terms of DJing.
Yeah, please.
Like, I learned a lot about energy DJing, and I got to the point when I would be able to tell if like an energy draining, negative, dickhead sort of a person, Like one person could fuck up a whole club.
In the crowd.
Yeah, one person with a bad attitude, and bad energy about them can fuck up the whole place if they're not dealt with. And I got to the point where I was able to tell if someone had walked in the club. I'm here DJing in the main room, and I could fucking feel it if someone had walked in the club.
Are you something like hypersensitive?
When you're paying attention, you can tell, because all these things reverberate and they all have effects, and you can tell. And I would be able to tell, and sure enough, like 8-10 minutes later, that person would appear through the door at the back of the dance floor, and you would see, oh, it's one of these fucking people.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And but you can counteract these things if you're paying attention. You can play certain kinds of music that will counteract their fucked up vibes before they get to do anything damaging. You know, so you can do that with music. For example, if there's too many dudes on the dance floor, that can cause problems. You get too much male energy, they'll start headbutting each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can fuck with that. You're like, I used to do shit like, you put like fucking MOP and DMX back to back, people will literally start fighting.
Yeah.
You just watch that happen. But then you can counteract that. You can put on different kinds of music that will bring more females in and more of a certain kind of female, or shit of that nature, and you can counteract those energies. And you can literally, if there's a dickhead coming, you can fortify your dance floor with righteousness by bringing a certain kind of energy and certain kinds of people to the floor by the music that you choose that will essentially guard the domain from the dickhead. And they won't even know that's what they're doing. They won't know that they've been summoned as warriors to guard the sacred realm of the dance floor from the dickheads. But that's what you do. Sometimes you'll have a kind of dickhead energy guy and they'll approach the DJ booth and they'll start making requests and being grumpy and making demands. You play a certain kind of record, the DJ booth will be swarmed by girls who are twerking off the fucking thing, and the guy can't get close, right? And he'll feel like a bit of a fool even trying to raise that question. It's like, here's that guy, he's going to ask this, summon the twerkers, right? And that guy won't even get to open his fucking mouth, and that energy won't even get to come into existence, you know? But anyway, you can think of your whole life in that manner, right? Wow. So if you pay attention, you go, okay, this is what's going to be coming up here, and that's going to be coming there, and this, that, and the other. You can organize yourself, and you can organize your life, and you can organize your existence in such a manner that energy draining events or people or activities or what have you are counteracted and counterbalanced with energy creation activities and, you know, positive energy events to counteract the negative ones, or sort of foundational energy events with which to withstand bombardments of whatever, you know, of whatever might be coming.
Yeah.
So you think of it like that. So you want to be paying attention and preparing and auditing and just checking in.
This is impressive. And even this example is genius. And I would love to stay on one of your DJ sets to see how you manage this energy thing on the floor.
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
It's a beautiful thing. But again, it just goes down to paying attention. And the other thing which we were talking about earlier, the combination of two things, is a combination of paying attention and the combination of turning yourself into a finely tuned machine that can do that. So in the example of DJing, making yourself technically proficient enough to be able to execute whilst thinking in that manner. Yeah. Because if you have not made yourself technically proficient enough, you will never have the headspace to be able to be thinking in that manner. So that's why it's important to become highly skilled at things.
This is so you're talking about the difference from the 80% of the DJs to the top 10 or 20%.
Yeah, and that's in anything, right?
Yeah.
Another aspect of it, which I talk about a bit, is part because you want to be able to be in the zone, right? You want to be in that flow space. You want to be in that magical space where you can slow time down and things of that nature, right? And you can only be in that place. It's not just that you become technically proficient. To be in that space, you also have to be at risk of complete catastrophical failure.
Yeah.
Like the zone, that magical sparkly place, is a place where you could be falling off the cliff at any moment. It's like, you know, it's like a thin, windy path to Mordor rather than a fucking than a motorway or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
At any point, there's got to be that potentiality for catastrophic failure. Whilst one foot is in it's like it's straddling the line between order and chaos. It's one foot is in complete certainty that I know how to do this, but I've created a potential for disaster. And when that is the case, that's when you're in magical flow area. A magical flow zone area is where you get to do things like create transcendent experiences and know if some dickhead just walked in the front door. You know?
Yeah, you're going higher, your quality is getting better and all this stuff. But on the other side, if you fall down, you will fall deeper because you're getting higher.
Back to the the radio receiver or whatever thing. That's maximum. It means you're receiving all the information.
Yeah.
You're aware of it. You're hyper attuned, hyper aware.
Awareness.
In that Superman, I can hear someone screaming over there, and I can see there's a building on fire over there, and
a building on fire. One of the reasons I asked you for this interview, I know, or I think I know that you had some really tough times in your life, even to make this way from Britain to America to here and do your stuff, and even I watched your videos that was visible for me on YouTube and all this stuff. So, what was your biggest challenge in life to get this kind of access to you and your power? Would you want to share it with us?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest obstacle is always the same, which is they're self-imposed. You know? So I had all these self-imposed ideas of what the world was and what my place in the world was. I had a lot of sort of negative programming. I had a lot of negative self-talk. I didn't even know what self-talk was in like 2014.
No.
I wasn't aware that the conversation I was having in my head was an incredibly destructive and poisonous thing that was constantly fucking me up. And no matter what I would strive and I would get to a certain point and then I would self-sabotage. And that would be because I had these voices in my head that were calling me a dickhead, saying this isn't for you and you don't deserve this and you fucking suck and you can't do this.
The voice talking you're not good enough.
Yeah, all those voices. And those voices, it's the same as the thing I've been teaching my son. Like, you are not, it's like, Dad, I had a bad thought, and he thought that made him bad. It's like, no, that's not you. You are not your thoughts. You are that which observes your thoughts. And you get to choose which ones you let in, which ones you keep, and which ones you let just roll on by like a fucking garbage bag in the wind.
Yeah, good one.
And, until relatively recently, like 2014, 2015, I was made aware of the concept of self-talk when I read a book called Gorilla Mindset by Mike Cernovich. And he would say, listen to how you talk to yourself and what goes on inside your head. And one exercise he suggested was just speak it. And I had a studio in Los Angeles. I just built a studio in Los Angeles at that point, which was soundproof. Oh. So and I had a vocal booth with like a mirrored door. So I'd stand there in the mirrored door and I would just say what was in the head. I was like, holy shit, this is horrible.
So you speak loudly?
Yeah, so I would speak it loudly, and then you realize how fucked up it is.
So you speak everything?
Yeah,
out?
I just spoke.
Everything?
Yeah. And then you're like, holy shit, this
long?
is... I did this for a month or so, I don't know.
Wow.
And I was doing it every day for a while, and you're like, wow, I would never speak to someone like that in real life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't speak to my worst enemy like that. And this is the way I speak to myself. And then you're like, whose voices are these? And it's like, oh, that's like your mom, or that's a teacher, that's not even you, that's some shit you saw on TV, or like... and it's still there, just fucking rattling around inside, tormenting you.
Yeah.
You know, but once I spoke it, then I was then able to let it go. And then when they'd start popping up, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. You know, and then I got into I was like, then I realized I could do this walking around. Because everyone's got these fucking earbuds and they're all having conversations with people. Everyone looks crazy now, right?
Yeah.
From the point of view of like a 90s person, everyone is fucking insane. The streets are full of mad people talking with themselves. So you can just walk around. So I would just walk around. I realized, oh shit, I don't even have to do this in the studio. I can just walk around having the conversation.
Still loudly.
Yeah, still loudly. But now I'm like,
this is such
blah,
a
blah, blah, blah,
smart
blah.
move.
That's fucking stupid. Shut the fuck up. Blah, 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 blah. That's my mom. That's not me. Blah, 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 blah. That's that. You know, and after doing that for a few months, I cleared out most of it.
This is such a smart move of self-therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, I never did any therapy or nothing. But like...
You did it.
Yeah, I mean, I never went and sat down with a person or whatever. So, but yeah, I did a couple of months of doing that. I cleared out most of it. And it, to this day, still things occasionally will pop up, but I pay attention. And if you think of yourself, like I was saying, what I've been trying to teach Hercules is like, you know, remembering that you are not that. You are that which observes that.
Yeah.
And remembering that and just reminding yourself of that regularly and checking in to make sure you're acting as if that was the fucking case. You know, that helped a lot.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That really helped a lot because I was having these repeated problems in my life. I just kept finding myself back in the same position. It was like I left home when I was 16, and I kept, no matter what, I kept finding myself back at this point of poverty and misery and destruction and I just kept finding myself back at this point. And then I worked that shit out. And there was a bunch of other stuff I had to work out. I had to rewire a bunch of ideas I had about the world and energy and what money was and certain relationships and things of that nature. You know. But then everything changed. Once I did that, everything changed. And suddenly the world was the way I'd wanted it to be. Suddenly life was the way I wanted it to be. You know? And it was all... You know, it's never that. It's never, oh, my mum, or oh, the government, or oh, no. Like, things might have come in from those places, but it's how you choose to deal with it that makes the difference.
Yep.
It's always you. It's always you. You know. I listened to Jocko Willink talking about his extreme
Ownership
idea. It was the second Meaning Wave record I made. Was that, and that was something that I had always thought. I'd always been very into discipline and responsibility and all that type of thing. But there was something about the way that he crystallized it that was really, yeah, it was really helpful.
He makes it so crystal clear that you are to 110% in charge and no one else.
Zero excuses, like ever. Just like, and it's really powerful. It's like when you do that, if you really do that, then it changes everything.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, imagine everybody did that. Like, what kind of a fucking world could it be? And then you're like, oh shit. So all these, you know, all these people who want a better world. But their way of getting the better world is always externalizing. We must stop this thing. We must take down this oppressive regime.
Akira, please make my world better. It would be so nice.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's so backwards. It's everything. It's so much in our current world is an inversion that it's comical of how much is an inversion, how much is exactly upside down and exactly opposite to the truth and to that which would fix these problems that people think they have and so on and so forth. It's amazing. But you can't do anything about it. You can't change anyone else either. You can't, you know, all you can do is be that which you wish existed in such a sort of like furious and violent fashion that it's very obvious to people, and that they might take that as an example.
Yeah.
They might be able to see it as an
Yeah.
example at some point. That's all you can do.
It's the only thing and the best thing, and I love this thought. I'm just doing my thing, and other people see my way and think, yeah, how he helped this lady or something else is so nice or impressive. I will do it the same, and then you have this crazy butterfly effect. Who starts.
You don't go around and mandate helping ladies. You know what I mean? You don't do the help ladies mandate, like, because people won't do it. Or if they do it, they'll do it resentfully. So they won't do it properly. So you'll just end up with a whole load of people like fucking up old ladies' lives because they'll be resentfully doing it, you know, and they won't do it properly, they won't do it with care. So then you just have a fucked up world full of ladies just having their problems exacerbated by dickheads. It's a terrible idea. It's never worked in history. Why would it work now? Fucking hell, what's wrong with these people?
Okay, good point. So, I think we're coming now to a little bit of an end, but...
Chido?
Yeah.
Chido.
I saw how hard you're working on to release every month a new album or some singles and all this stuff, and I personally found it super impressive that you release every Chido month
Week.
a new album and some new
I release
stuff.
music every week. I release music every week.
It makes it still more impressive, and I thought if every musician or producer would work so hard as you or don't take drugs daily, how impressive the world could be. So have you some people you think as admire for strength and energy as some of your idols? Have you something like this?
Yeah, there's people I've observed, like, look, I've got Prince on my arm there, right? Prince used to just make music every day. Now, most of it you never heard, because his record label wouldn't let him release it. His record label thought you should only release records every 2 or 3 years, and then you should tour, you know. And one of the things I observed, and I talk about quite a bit because I observed this, I was a music journalist for a while, because I wanted to make music, and at that point there wasn't the internet like it is now, and at that point you had to, you know, get signed or something, and I thought, well, if I was a music writer, I would know people, and I would be able to get my music to people and be in a better position to...
Smart move.
So yeah, so that's what I did when I was like 17. But what I started observing, like, as a music writer, so reviewing records and writing about them and talking to the bands and stuff, there was this phenomenon I observed wherein a band's first album and the B-sides of the singles would all be brilliant. So Oasis is a really good example of this. Like Oasis's first album and all the B-sides and all that, people who like Oasis will be like, oh, that shit was like genius level. Then they came along and did the second album a couple of years later, and there's a marked difference in the quality, and the best songs that most people like off that second album were ones that were written at the same time as the first album. And you go, what happened? And you say, well, what happened was that the band were in flow. They were in the zone. They were recording and writing every day, right? And then they got successful, and then the band put them on tour. The record label put them on tour. They get into cocaine. They stop doing all the stuff they were doing. They fall out of the zone. They're no longer in flow. And then when it comes time to make the second album, they don't know how to get back to that place. They can't find their way back. They did not leave the fucking string in the maze to, you know, get back. And this happens to loads of bands. This happened to The Darkness. I was friends with them, and the same thing happened to them. They were this amazing band. They were writing and recording together all the time. All their demos were fantastic. First album, amazing. Record label sends them on tour for 2 years. get into cocaine, come back, try and make a second album. They've split up halfway through making the second album. They just couldn't find their way back. Prince, even though the record label said, no, we don't want an album for 2 years, you've got to go on tour, da 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 da. Prince recorded every day, wrote songs every day. He made sure that his life was such that he had a recording studio in his house. And he would just always be in there. So he had thousands, hundreds and thousands of songs.
Wow.
So he just stayed in that place. He never left that place. You know? If you look at like Lil Wayne.
Even this is a genius tip on the way.
Genius tip. You know, Lil Wayne was probably the most influential, not probably, he was, yeah, arguably, so the 2000s, yeah. Lil Wayne's the most influential rap figure of the 2000s. And Lil Wayne had a run in the 2000s that was unmatched, wherein between about sort of 2003 and 2007, right up until Carter 3, right up until Drought 3, that mixtape, that you could, it was the blog rap era. And it was when the internet, music really became part of the internet.
Yeah.
And that's where people were listening to music, and they were going to their favorite blogs every day. Nah, right, Two Dope Boys, da da da. There'd be new music every day because you could upload music now. It wasn't so you didn't have to press it on a CD. So the people that did well in this world were the people that could do a lot. And Lil Wayne was the king of that. He was dropping new tracks every day.
Wow.
Like every day he had new shit coming out, and it's because he'd done that Prince thing. He had a recording studio in the house. He was just recording every day. When he was on tour, he had a recording studio on the bus. He built a recording studio, made sure on his tour bus there's a recording studio. He just every day.
So no big bed where he can do his rapper things.
Yeah, he had a big bed.
Okay.
That's his thing. He had the big bed, really big bed, like comically large bed that could fit. There's an interview with him once where he talked about like it's necessary that I could fit at least 10 bitches on my bed at any given time or some shit like that. Right? But he had the recording studio, you know, and he worked. And so like for like 5 years or 4 years, something like that, he was like untouchable. No one could come close to him. And
this is impressive.
then he fell out. Then he got too into the big bed and the codeine. And he slipped out of that place and he fell out of that place.
So he stopped recording every day?
Yeah. And but he's been getting back into it recently after back in a recording every day for a long time thing. But someone who paid attention to him was Drake. Drake, Lil Wayne signed Drake to his Young Money label. And Drake paid attention to Lil Wayne and he saw what he was doing right and what he was doing wrong. Drake has been the #1 rap artist for a decade now.
Yeah.
His only competition being Kanye West on consistency level, right? But Drake's #1. And Drake saw that Lil Wayne formula. Drake has a fucking recording studio on the tour bus. Drake has a recording studio in the house. Drake makes sure he's working all the time. Drake makes sure that he's just doing a little bit of music-related stuff every day. And has done for 10 years. So most musicians or rappers, they're like, right, the album's out, okay, now I get to go and take 6 months off, or I get to go on tour, or I get to have a break or whatever, right?
Time for more cocaine.
Yeah, exactly. Drake stayed consistent. He made sure he stayed consistent. He's a calculating evil bastard. Right? He made sure, he's like, this works. So he's done that. So he's stayed consistently at the top of the rap game for 10 years. And a big part of that is just in the making sure you're doing it every day, checking in wherever you are. He's always working on whether a new album or a mixtape thing.
And even in this framework is super impressive with all the distractions you can have.
Yes. And that's what normally happens to bands and musicians. They normally get distracted. They normally fall prey to that stuff. The whole musician life is such a funny sort of, Jesus in the desert, da da da. It's this hilarious microcosm of all that is, because that's everybody's life. Everyone has distractions. Everyone has temptations. Everyone has. Everywhere you go, there's devils trying to distract you from what you're meant to be doing. With a musician, it's really condensed. It's like you make the artwork, and then that brings the devils. The devils are the record companies at the start. The first thing they're doing is trying to corrupt you. I remember the other day when I signed my first record deal, my A&R guy was trying to get me to do cocaine. I didn't want to do any cocaine. When I signed my record deal, I was pretty straight edge at that exact point. I was just smoking weed. I wasn't even drinking booze. And they were so pissed off I didn't want to do cocaine. Like, they were actually, like, angry. They were offended. They were angry that I didn't want to do a load of cocaine with them and spend a huge amount of the advance on that. Because that's just part of the system. That's part of how it works. That's part of how you're supposed to play the game.
They want that you get addicted to drugs?
Yes, because if you look back at the genesis of the recording industry, those jazz musicians, they used to pay them in heroin. And so a lot of those early rock and roll records are owned outright by the record labels to this day. And what they did was they took full publishing rights from the artists who made the music, and they paid the artists in heroin. It was heroin at that jazz point. And so that it was important that they got them, that they were on drugs, because they could control it.
Like human slaves.
Yeah, that's the record industry. That's literally how it was born. It was born from that model. Get a musician, have them addicted to drugs, give them drugs, they record for you. Right down to the shit like my first record deal. I just paid attention to Prince. Like I wanted to spend my advance money on a home recording studio.
Yep.
They didn't want me to do that because they wanted me to be going to their recording studios.
That they control you.
Yeah, and you pay them. So say you get an advance, right? Say that you've got $500,000 recording budget to make an album, and then you go spend the money in their recording studios. You have to pay them back the $500,000 advance, and they also get the money from you spending it in their studios. Right? So they get the money twice. So it's a great model for them. They don't like it when you make your own recording studio or whatever, for multiple reasons. They don't get to control it, they don't get to control which engineers, they don't get to have the masters right there, or whatever the fuck it is. But I insisted anyway. And that was one of the things that worked out really well for me, because when my relationship with the label inevitably went sour, I had a home recording system and was able to make my own and release my own music forever.
Yeah.
From there.
Again, smart move on your side.
Yes. Still been paying attention. I was a student of the game. I read a lot of music magazines. Paid attention.
Yeah. So, at least, when you've forgot everything you learned over the last years and decades, and you can relearn it, what would be your first thing you want to relearn?
The self-talk thing.
The self-talk.
Yeah, if you had that from the beginning, that's why it's very important. That's why I am impressing it on my son. I had voices in my head calling me a dickhead for decades. Decades I had horrible voices in my head telling me I wasn't shit. And I was listening to them. And I didn't even think of it in that manner, Yeah. Had I been aware of that and been able to counteract that from the beginning, I would have been able to do a lot of things a lot quicker and be a lot more useful in the world from a lot earlier. I spent decades not being as useful as I could have been because I was consistently self-sabotaging due to fucking stupid voices in my head telling me stupid shit and listening to that and thinking that was me.
Yes, you were right. But on the other hand, I think it was necessary that you did all this mad stuff for you to grow, that here.
There's a song I did sampling Rupert Spira, and he talks about a guru type who was born with awareness of what he really was, which is, in Rupert Spira's language, it would be a pure loving awareness. I think is how he puts it. So this guy is born, and he has complete all the stuff that you get intonations of from mystical experiences or psychedelic experiences or religious experiences. He knew all of that. But in knowing all that, he realized he was useless. Because so what that he knows all that he's in this world of all these people who are not enlightened, and they're all suffering needlessly, and he couldn't do anything about that. So what he had to do was force himself to forget what he knew, so he could then find out how to get there, and then he could take other people.
Yep.
You know, what's the line? I had to become like you so that you could become like me. You know, so it's like you have to go through these experiences, and you have to go through the suffering, go through the pain, and what have you, so that you can then tell other people how you did it, and they can do it too.
Yep.
And that's what the Jesus story is about, partly. You know, that's God had to embody himself as a human being in order that he could experience humanity, and humanity could experience divinity.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, you're right. You're right. So yeah, the whole, if you could go in a time machine and tell younger you something, it's like, don't tell him shit, because then you fuck it all up. You know what I mean?
But an advice is all the time a good thing. Maybe you will hear on your older self.
Well, you know, I wanted that then, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever had any time experiences. But I remember one time when I was a kid, I used to walk down from school into the local town every day. And I'd usually go Woolworths and shoplift chocolate, fucking records or whatever, right? And there were these things outside the Woolworths, these like benches in the shape of like octagonal benches.
Yeah, yeah.
And one time I sat down on one of those, and I don't know why, but for a second, I suddenly had this very intense experience, and suddenly I could see the building in front of me. I saw it at its height, and I saw it at its ruin, and I saw it at its foundational being built there.
Wow.
And all the people walking along the street, I saw where they'd been going off like tails, right, just stretching off.
Wow.
And just for this little condensed moment, I saw like everything, where in my vicinity, where everything had been and where it was going. And it was super condensed, and it was super sort of slowed down, you know, like, and then it was gone. But
Such an impressive moment for a kid.
I think I was like 10 or 11 or 12 or something like that. Maybe I was 11 or 12 because I was in secondary school. But the thing about that is if I had that moment, which I did, then that means that I had access to time outside of its confines of my immediate experience of it. So that would suggest that that's always there.
Yep.
So that would suggest that those conversations with an older self and a younger self and all that are not only possible, but possibly going on.
Yeah, for sure.
All the time.
For sure.
Right? So that's like a thing that is happening. Who was it? I can't remember if it was Grant Morrison or Kurt Vonnegut that spoke about our way of perceiving time like sort of beads on a string. But, you know, that's just how we have to perceive it while we're in it. Grant Morrison said time is soil to grow universes in, is one way of thinking of it. And then once you're outside of that, you can see it from the outside like you would see a flower bed from the outside.
Yeah.
You can see what has grown and where, you know, and the full shape of it.
Thinking about time is always for me like a brain fuck. But one time I heard a concept that everything is at the same time, like your youngest and your oldest and your now self and all the self between this age are living their life at the same time, and somehow this makes the most thing for me. I think it's,
Well, from outside of time, that would be the case.
yeah.
So outside, you know, our experience of this dimension of time, that would be the case. Kurt Vonnegut in Sirens of Titan, was it? Or was it Slaughterhouse 5? He talked about it like stacked Polaroids.
Mm-hmm.
So every moment is a Polaroid, and all those Polaroids exist at the same time.
Oh, this is a genius example. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where I even came into that. Yeah, that's the thing. So like you could, and probably are, taking advice from younger and older versions of yourself when you need it.
Yes.
You know, and as what I was talking about, being a receiver and making yourself into the most finely tuned machine possible. Being a receiver, you would be receiving not just the source, you would also be receiving you across space and time when necessary. Sometimes, because sometimes you need that. So I do this in a kind of a Stone Age manner. Sometimes I'm like, oh shit, there was a version of me that existed in 2001 that had a feeling and an excitement and a joy about him. Okay, so I did this for the Marcus Aurelius album. I wanted to inject it with a feeling that I had when I made a song called Oh What a Glorious Thing, which was one of my first songs. And it was when I first worked out how to make music, and I felt very free and excited. And I was living on my own. I had my first apartment in London on my own, and I wanted that energy for this album.
Wow.
And I thought, how can I do this? So I was like, oh, I know. What music was I listening to when I made that album? And I was listening to MF Doom. And I was listening to Food, and I was listening to the King Ghidorah record. So I put those records on, and I was transported back to that place.
Because you're so addicted to music and your connection is so strong.
Music is a time machine. If you look at YouTube and you look at any music video, the top comment will be, the music was so much better in my day. Right?
Yeah.
Every song.
Yeah.
Because people magically associate the first time they got a boner with the music being better. And what usually happens is people, when they're young, they're listening to new music and they're excited about it and they're paying attention to it and it's all new. And then they stop at a certain point. Most people stop listening to new music and they just listen to the same music. This is the music I like, I'm just going to listen to this, or whatever, right? So what happens is you stop carving pathways, like the thing we were talking about earlier about finding your way back home, right?
Yeah.
So if you listen to an album while you're in this apartment, and you listen to one album for like a week while you're in this apartment, in 10 years, if you listen to that album again, you'll be back in this apartment. You close your eyes, you'll fucking feel it, you'll see everything, right? So that's that. Like music is a time machine device to travel. And once you go back, you're able to go back. In this instance, I was able to go back. I was able to listen to this record, close my eyes. I could fucking see every detail of the apartment. I could feel all the feelings. And then I come back and then I make this album, and it's partly made by that version of me. And that version of me had this certain way about him and had a certain attitude and stuff that translated into a specific kind of music that only that version of me could do.
Yeah.
Right? So that as a concept, you're like, huh. So if that works, so if you can do that, like what else could you do? What else is there? What other ways of traveling are there? What other versions of ourselves could we be accessing and using for specific things? And how could we be doing that as a society? Is that a thing that, Terence McKenna has this idea about the archaic revival, right? Which is like every society, when they come to a certain crossroads, what they need to do to go forward is actually go backward. There's something in their past that was useful for going forward. Yeah. We're at this thing right now where as a society we're so very progressive that any idea of older things is bad, or everything old is bad, kill it all, burn it all. This was very well embodied in that dreadful Star Wars movie that destroyed Star Wars.
Which one of
the Last Jedi one, right? Because the core line of that was just like kill the past or something. What is it like? Let the past go, kill it if you must. Something like that. That's what they intended to do with that franchise, right? And then they destroyed the franchise in doing that. This current progressive idea of all past is bad, destroy all, only forward is good, is very, very foolish. And we're discovering that as we encounter all these problems that have been created by that attitude. And so it seems what we need to do, and that is that there's something in our past that we need to go forward, that we need to take with us, like fucking Indiana Jones grabbing his hat as the cave door thing collapses, right? There's something we need, and we, like, as a society, we kind of need to have that moment of listening to that record together whatever it is, you know, to find that shared thing from our past that we're missing, that we don't have now, that we've forgotten. Like there's something we've forgotten as a culture.
Missing link.
Right? There's something we've forgotten as a people. That's the thing we need to go forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things we're going to be doing over the next 7 years, culturally, is working that out together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. That the next 7 years will be one of the intense ever. But
That's always the way. That's always the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those that are paying attention.
Yeah.
So yeah, then the trick is going back to what you were saying earlier about energy management. You know, so it's not a problem, and then it's actually useful. You can use it to your advantage.
I will give you the last words and or the last tip. Whatever you want to say, you're free, because the last words will be yours.
Okay, well, my last words are Chido.
Chido.
Gracias. It's been very nice having you as a neighbor. It's very nice having you as a neighbor. This whole experience has been very magical. You know, we're only here. Well, there's a billion reasons why we're here. But some people, you know, would take like having to leave their home and not be able to get back into the country they lived and all that as a bad thing, and you know that would be. But it's brought only blessings, you know.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, and if you pay attention to the blessings, then that's what you're noticing, and then that's what you will get, and there will be more and more of that, you know. And one of those blessings has been you, Felix, and our dad.
Thank you.
And, glad to know you.
Yes, this is perfect. This is a perfect word for the ending, for this interview, and one of the last days in 2021. So
yeah, baby. F.
Be grateful.
F 21, 22. Let's get it. Pum pum pum.
So, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the video and the interview, and thank you for your time.
That's right. Love to you and your family.